touch it so it lights up because it's got a power save mode.
All right.
You hit your lock button. You go 5, 0, 1, 0, enter, and it unlocks the menu. All right. You have access to all three. In the user and the service both, it gives you access to turn the unit on and on. So I'll just hit the 3. You see, turn the unit off. That's how you shut it off. You hit it there, it'll do a countdown. You can wait, or you can hit it again, and it'll shut it down right away. So we just shut it off. Okay. You see, this went gray. That means it's off instead of green. And that's what we do to change filters. We go around the back side, and I'll show you which.
All right.
You're going to need a flat tip screwdriver. Oops. So you open this up. There's a cover over this. Normally I just took it off to show you guys something, but you got 3 toggles here. Just counterclockwise, quarter turn, all 3 of them. And it opens up and you get to your filters. You have a little tube here. There's 2 tubes. One of them sits on the outside of the filter and one on the inside for pressure differential. And it's not to let you know when you got to change the filters. It lets you know when it's plugged, when you got an emergency. So then it just lifts up and then it pulls out like this.
That's
and then the other one,
that's what I thought.
It just slides up and you pull it out the same way. So it's pretty easy.
Arrows go that way.
Airflow goes towards the front of the unit.
Okay.
So it won't run with this door open. You have safety switches. You got a main safety switch down here, and then you got you have toggle switches on for each one of those. So when you close this to make it run again, you want to make sure all three of them are turned clockwise as far as they go. If they are not making the switch, it will not run. And it'll give you alarms. So you got to make sure it's all locked up for it to actually do it. And then you can close that just like the other doors. That's all there is to it for changing the filter.
Okay.
So then you'll come back around here to turn it back on. As long as it's showing those 3 things, you know your password, and it's unlocked, you know your password's still there. Go down here to turn unit on, and it's going to count down, or you can bypass the countdown. Just let it go. Wait a second for it to click. It'll go green. Okay, it's in the process of turning on. The fans will start to ramp up. Eventually the compressor will kick on.
Okay.
And that's all there is to it. Alright. You want me to show you basics on how to change temperature in case they ask you to change temperature?
Sure, you can go ahead and
Alright. So I'm going to go into the service menu because I can show you a little more stuff in there. Hit this. Go into the set point menu. Okay, first thing comes up is temperature control. We're controlling the temperature by the supply sensor, which is just around here. You don't want to change that. Just leave it that way. Our temperature set point is at 60 degrees because we want the air coming out to be about 60 degrees. That way, as it tempers to get closer to the unit, it can be between 60 and 70 degrees as it goes into the servers. Alright, we're under a PI control type. It's kind of like people have heard of PID, proportional, integral, sometimes derivative. This is just proportional integral. So we got a proportional band of 9, integration time of 5 minutes. Can be adjusted. We try and keep it spread out so it doesn't respond real fast, so it keeps a more even line. It's slow, but again, if you're having trouble with it not responding quick enough, you can take the integration time down. I wouldn't go below 1, but usually 3 or 5 is about where we have it. This one's been working good about where it's at, so I left it there. If you're going to scroll up or down, you can use your finger, or you can use the back of a pen. That's what I like to do, just so it doesn't, you don't push too hard, but you just barely got to touch it, move up and down. See, we got a dead band of 2. That's adjustable if you want to adjust that. But to change the temperature, say we wanted to turn it up to 62, for instance. Turn it up to 62. You can punch a point, wherever you want to do. Once you've made a change and you want it to save, you hit save, and then it'll accept it. If you make a change and hit cancel or back out without hitting save, it'll stay where it was.
So is there any reason why we should have to change that at all?
The only reason why I would mess with it is if the servers are getting a little warmer than they like, they want it a little colder, you can drop it a little bit. If they say it's a little too cold, you can raise it up just a little bit. It's just see what the IT guys say. They were just don't go too much time. Do a little adjustments. You know, you do it a little bit. Say, okay, I adjusted it this much. See how it balances out. If you want me to adjust more, I'll come back and adjust it some more. You want to make small adjustments. It wouldn't have to be days. It could be hours. You know, just a couple hours. Small adjustments. They seem pretty happy with how it's been running so far, so you shouldn't have to make any adjustments anytime soon. But if they adjust the load or something changes in the room, adding equipment, it may affect things a little bit. So that's for the temperature control. Humidity control, we're set at 40 with a dead band of 5 and a proportional band of 5. Humidity control is a little tricky with this unit, but I'll get into more of that in a minute. Fan control, we're controlling the fan by the return sensor. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want it to see how much heat is coming back, and I want to keep the fan speed up so it makes sure it gets enough air across the room. I wouldn't mess with the fan controls, and unless you need to, and if you need to, you can always call us for a little advice. But I would leave the fan controls alone. The minimum fan speed, see here, is 70. The maximum fan speed is set at 75, and that's a control thing. It's actually going to say 100 on there. This 75 actually means 75% of the capacity of these fans. They can go up to 100, but the only reason why they would necessarily go up to the 100% capacity of the fan is if we had one fan have an issue with a motor, the other one will speed up to compensate. So that it's got a 25% error zone basically in there. So it's the 75% that's in this window is actually design of 100% airflow. So that's when it displays it on the main screen. Even though it's at 75% of the capacity of the motor, it's actually 100% airspeed. So that's what it's a little confusing. I just wanted to make sure I explained that. You shouldn't have to worry about the maximum. The minimum is 70. I don't want to set it in. It was initially set down to, I think it was 50 from the factory. I put it up to 70 just because we weren't getting enough air down to the other side of the room. So I don't want it to slow down less than 70, so it won't when I set that at 70, it won't let it go lower than that. So I wouldn't mess with those, but if for some reason you had to, or you wanted to speed it up some more, you could increase the minimum fan speed up to where, say you wanted more air down there, you could set, bump it up to 75 if you needed to. So we'll go back to temperature control. And there, you can see how that stuff all changes. Let's see. Alarms is the other thing that you may need to see. We have all different kinds of alarms in here. The alarms that you're going to see are going to be mostly like the supply sensor alarms, the supply alarms. There'll be return sensor alarms. There's some miscellaneous alarms and there's a loss of power alarm is on this, but I've disabled it because they're a nuisance for you guys because they go off every time you have a little power blip, and IT people are going to know when they have a loss of power because they're going to get alarms from your UPS. So it won't be given that. You don't have a water detector on this unit, but they can add one if they want to. most of these humidifier alarms have been disabled just to eliminate nuisance alarms. The one that you have in there, a humidifier problem, if that humidifier problem alarm comes up, that means that there's a problem with the humidifier bottle. You need to call John Henry's, let them know, or Data Power, depending on who you want to use, and come and take a look at that, figure out what's wrong with it. Could be a matter of the bottle being bad or an error on it. But it'll get into a bunch of alarms. I'm going to go back to the main page here. I hit the user main screen. So if you get an alarm, it's going to bring it up here and say what it is. Alright? This will be flashing red when it's an alarm. You can acknowledge the alarm and it'll display it here. And then it'll, down at the bottom box, it'll say reset alarm. So if you acknowledge the alarm, you decide, oh, it's high temperature. It got warm in the room because we were out. The power was out for a while, and it's just cooling down. You can hit the reset, and it'll go away, and everything will still run. If it's a critical alarm, it'll be telling you, and the unit shuts down for some reason. It's going to turn on that backup. But some of the alarms, you can just acknowledge it, reset it, and it'll come back and run again. If it doesn't want to do that, worst case scenario, you open it up, cycle your power, let it boot up and do its thing, and it should kick on and run again and try again. Alarms may come up again as it does it. You can silence them, reset them. But if all else fails, if you're trying to get it to run and it's not running, and you can't get things reset, cycle power. It's everything that could damage the unit is got safeties. It's going to protect itself. So worst case scenario, it's going to alarm and shut off on you again. So if you're getting warm and trying to get it going until service gets here, it isn't going to hurt anything to cycle power, try and get it going again. Just take note of what alarms were there to let the service guy know, hey, this was what it was. I cycled it for this, just so you can do some communication.
All right.